and welcome back to another edition of Indie Book Review, where today I am reviewing Dreamland by Nick Clausen. Now, I normally don't do reviews this close together, but this book is fairly short, and, well, yes, I did only review, Adam's Witness just a couple days ago. It only took me just a few days to get through this one. So, yeah. Alright, let's get into this, shall we? So, first off, we're going to start with plot. So, Louis is a 13-year-old boy who is getting basically put into this dream world whenever he goes to sleep. And while he's there, he meets this guy in blue, and who he later finds out is his dad. And through a certain amount of build-up, you find out that things are not quite what they seem, and Dreamland is not quite all it's cracked up to be. I'm not going to get into specifics because, to get into specifics is spoiler territory, and that's just not how I roll, standard review stuff. In terms of the plot itself, I actually really had nothing against it. It's actually a fairly decent plot that I don't see very often. I'm well aware that there's no real originality anymore because there's only so many certain ways that a story can go together. And while I have seen the whole Dream World storyline before, I haven't quite seen quite like this. And I definitely enjoyed what I read with it. So plot, I'm going to give it straight up a 5 out of 5. It definitely was really, really good. But now we're going to get into what I personally think is the book's greatest weakness. It's characters. There's just really not much to these characters. Louis is a 13-year-old boy, and other than space, which he didn't seem to get into until his father mentioned that he liked space, I really couldn't tell you anything about Louis. I couldn't tell you anything about his personality that wasn't already being manipulated by the dream world. In fact, when it actually really comes down to it, I really had a hard time believing that Louis was a 13-year-old boy throughout the majority of it. I actually didn't even think he was 13 until he distinctly mentioned that he's 13. Going through the timeline, I had a hard time even thinking that he was 11 or 12. I would have put him right around the age of 7 to 9. Just the way he acts, the way he doesn't quite understand what certain things are and how things are going on. I just wasn't really buying it, There's just not much to him. In fact, there's not much to really any of the characters. The only ones that you really actually get any real feel for is the father and the guy who's dating Louis' mother. Those are really the only two characters that actually have any sort of real personality to them, and even then, it's just a couple tidbits here and there. Now, granted, the book is short, so, there's only so much space, but I think if this book would have been a little longer and taken a little bit more time with the characterizations, I probably would have liked it a lot more. So, characters, unfortunately, I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 5, and it definitely does get those points because you do understand, the father and the potential stepfather. Writing. This book is super easy to read. It's super easy to get through. It does border on a little bit of simplicity in a lot of places. But for the most part, I really didn't have a lot of problems with it. It does kind of hold your hand through a lot of, or at least a few of the explanations on what things are, like sirens. I'm pretty sure the majority of people know what a siren is. I don't think it really needed to be explained. I get the explanation. It was probably an editor's note or something like that. Or even if it wasn't, it's not something that really broke the flow of the story or anything like that. It just kind of broke down a little bit more of the characterization and not buying of Louis' age. So all in all, I'm actually going to give writing a 4 out of 5. It really was just super easy to read and super easy to get into, so I really don't have any problems with it. Just a couple times where I felt it needed to hold your hand, explaining some fairly basic stuff. Just kind of really drug because of it. Research and imagination. 5 out of 5. You gotta read it to understand it. Unfortunately, I can't get any farther than that. Ending. This book ended how I imagined it would, but not in the way I imagined it would. if that makes any sense. It had the style of ending that I thought it would have. It just didn't get there in the way that I thought it would. And frankly, I was a little happy to see that, despite getting the ending that I figured that we would get. As people know, I'm particularly not overly fond of happy endings, especially if they seem forced. This one happily did not seem very forced. It actually felt very natural, for the most part. There was a little bit of a... But I'll get into that in the spoilery section. For the most part, I really didn't have any problems with this ending. Like, it ended the way that I thought it really needed to end. So I'm going to give the ending a 4 out of 5. Like, it really was not a bad ending. But anyway, now that all that's out of the way, I can get to the spoilery part of the ending. So, Louis finds out that he's being betrayed by the Dream Dad, gets drugged to the house that his mother and father used to live in when he was born, and he's trapped there with his ghost dad. The actual real ghost dad this time, not spectral ghost dad in blue. Dream ghost dad. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, he gets trapped in there. His mom eventually finds him in the old house because he ran away after the two of them had a spat, and she slapped him. He kind of deserved it, not gonna lie. Louis really deserved to get slapped. In fact, he needed to be slapped a few times in this book and didn't. Anyway, moving on. She calls an ambulance, he gets taken to the hospital, and she eventually goes to a psychic, like a clairvoyant, which went completely out of left field. Like, it was... The way it was written in those last few chapters, it made it seem like she had this card the whole time, but it was never alluded to before. In fact, psychics in general had never been alluded to in any shape, way, or form. I mean, other than the whole dream world thing. So, yeah. Anyway, they bring Louis back. The dad sticks around in the house as a ghost for a little while until the mom's boyfriend Phil moves in and becomes a permanent residence, and Louis and his mom say goodbye to Ghost Dad, and that's just kind of how the story ends. It's kind of a nice ending. I like that. Yeah, if it wasn't for the whole out of nowhere clairvoyant, it definitely would have got a straight up 5 out of 5. But anyway, that's it. That's the review. So yeah, all in all, I give the book a 7.5 out of 10. Like, it was actually a fairly enjoyable book that I found very difficult to put down. So if you want, pick it up. That's about all I got for you guys. Have a great day.